she inboxed me and she said, your mother's house is on fire and your 3-year-old is trapped inside. The man came in and helped my mother with trying to find D'Anthony, trying to get him out the house. He went up the stairs to try to go find him. And he's upstairs trying to find, he doesn't know what room he's in either. So he comes running back outside and comes running out the door. So my mom's like, where's the baby? Where's the baby? And he was like, it's too hot. It's too hot. And she was like, what? So she tried to run past him and he picked her up and grabbed her back out the door.
So now we get to the day that everything went wrong.
As I stated, December 4th, 2016 was probably like the third worst day of my life. I never forget it. I woke up that morning feeling a lot rejuvenated than I had the past couple of days. I think, again, I was just very uncomfortable because I've been in this hospital bed for weeks now. I'm getting bigger. I can't really do anything. So, I'm a little frustrated and, just a lot of things going on. And that morning was something different. Everything just felt like it was supposed to be a perfect day, but it wasn't. It turned into a really bad day. So, my son, well, my mother called me that day. And she was talking about, getting things ready for the kids for school and uniforms and things of that sort. And her washer had messed up. So something had happened to her belt on her washing machine. And their dad wasn't there. He had went somewhere, went to his mother's house because he had dropped our oldest 2 kids off with his mother because they were spending the weekend with her. But then he also had to stop at his grandmother's house to help her with something while he was coming from work. So my mother called me and she was like, I'm getting the clothes together so that way when he gets back, he can take them and go get washed. Great. No problem. So that probably was about 9 o'clock in the morning or so. And I remember that I was laying there and I was watching Law and Order. And then she called me back. And she was like, I need you to talk. My mother called and she's like upset because at the time she was keeping my 3rd oldest, D'Anthony, and my baby boy. Because remember, my oldest 2 were at his mom's house for the weekend. So she had the 3rd, 4th, which was for D'Anthony's the 4th, and the baby boy. She was like, I need you to talk to your kids. I was like, who? She was like, D'Anthony and Puss, they're running outside and they have no shoes on your feet. I need you to get on them. Well, my 3rd oldest son, he's a person that he gets into things. So he was a little hard at the time. And D'Anthony always acted as the bigger brother, right? Because they were 2 years apart. So my 3rd son was 6, D'Anthony was 4. And I remember the first thing I said was, I was like, what are they doing? They keep trying to run in the snow with no shoes on their feet. Because it was the first day that it had started snowing. And I'm like, put D'Anthony on the phone. And he was like, yes, Mom. I was like, what you doing out there trying to run in the snow with no shoes and socks on your feet? Are you crazy? Like, don't run outside with no shoes and your socks on your feet. You know better than that. And he was like, Mommy, I was running outside in the snow because I just want to play in the snow one more time. I was like, what you mean? Get your butt back in the house. Not knowing that he was telling me he just wanted to play in the snow one more time. Like, literally, he was telling me, Mom, I just want to play in the snow one more time. So I was like, okay, put your brother on the phone. So I remember, so my 3rd son got on the phone. And I was like, what are y'all doing out there trying to play in the snow? What is going on? And he was like, quiet. And I was like, you the oldest. You know better than that. You got your brother outside in the snow. Don't do that no more. You make sure you get your butt in the house and listen to your grandmother. Okay, Mama. So they got off the phone. I said, put D'Anthony back on the phone. So D'Anthony got back on the phone. Because it was something about, like, yelling at D'Anthony, or if D'Anthony would get popped on his butt or something, like, we would feel so bad. Like, for him, it was just, because he gave you, like, these eyes, and he just had this look that will break your heart if you did something, like if he got in trouble. So I said to him, I said, now make sure you don't go back out there in the snow. You hear me? He was like, yes, Mama. I was like, all right, I love you. And he was like, I love you too, Mommy. And that was the last conversation I had with my son. That was the last time I heard my son's voice. And so I remember I laid back down because I was tired. I was still, a little tired. I had been up and going up, waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep. And um, I remember I went to sleep, and then I woke back up. And I was like, let me call and check and see if, their father had came to get the clothes and to make sure everything, was falling into order. Us mamas still doing stuff when we're not when we're not supposed to do, but just following and just checking in, checking in with everybody. And my mother didn't answer the phone. I'm like, I called her twice, and it's like, that's unusual. And I was like, they'll call back. I didn't think anything of it. And about 30 minutes or so later, I was just scrolling on Facebook. I literally was on Facebook, and I was just looking. And I never forget, I got this inbox on Facebook from one of my mother's neighbors. She was a younger girl I went to school with. And she inboxed me and she said, your mother's house is on fire and your 3-year-old is trapped inside. I'm like, what? So can you imagine just laying in a hospital bed, you're pregnant with a very dangerous condition going on at the same time, and I'm laying in this hospital bed and I'm being told that my mother's house is on fire and one of my children are trapped in there. And she said 3-year-old, and I'm like, I don't have a 3-year-old. Like, what? Maybe. So at this time now I'm panicking, and I call my mother again and she's not answering the phone. I called her another time, she's not answering the phone. I called her another time, she's not answering the phone. So I'm like, what is going on? So I instantly called their father. I'm calling his phone, he's not answering. So now my heart is like really speeding, it's really beeping. So I pressed my nurse's button, and my nurse comes to see, and she's like, everything okay? I was like, no. So I just go into this instant panic and attack, and I'm like, they said my mother's house is on fire, my kids are in it, I don't know what's going on, nobody's answering the phone. She was like, oh my God. So the nurse runs out the room, and she's like, I guess she must have went and told the other nurses, and the other nurses come running in, and they're like, just calm down. One nurse is like, let's see if we hear anything on the scanner or if anybody coming in, like, is it in Gary? And I'm like, yes. It's Gary, Indiana. Is it in Gary? I'm like, yes. She was like, let's see if we hear anything coming in, and just calm down. So I've got like 4 nurses around me. I'm like hyperventilating, nobody's answering the phone. So I call their father's, my mother-in-law at the time. I call her, and I said to her, I called her and she didn't answer the phone. So now I'm panicking even more. I called her another time, still didn't answer the phone. So then I called his grandmother, their father's grandmother, and she answered. And I said, Grandma, have you heard from him? He's not answering. Have you heard from him? And she was like, no. I was like, they just said my mother's house is on fire. I don't know what's going on. She was like, oh my God. I was like, please call over to the house and see if he's over there at your daughter's house, if he's over there, so we can figure out what's going on. She's like, okay. So she hangs up. So I hear nothing. Like, I'm still there. I'm panicking. I'm like hyperventilating at this point. I can't breathe. Nobody's telling me nothing. Then one of my cousins, they didn't even live in the city, she texts me in my inbox, and I hadn't heard from her in probably a year and a half or something, and says, hey, call me, it's super important. And I'm like, why is nobody telling me anything? Like, what is happening? So the nurse comes back into the room, and she's like, there was an incident, and they're bringing your family into the hospital, right? And what we're gonna do as soon as they get here, we're gonna take you downstairs. And I'm like, I'm still like, who, what person, what is going on? So their dad's cousin, she lived right up the block, and his cousin lived probably right across the street, and the grandmother must have called her and let her know what was going on, because she was there at the hospital. And so she calls up to me, calls my phone, and she's like screaming, but she's downstairs in the hospital, so she had beat everybody to the hospital. She's like screaming, she's like, oh, they not telling me nothing, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, please calm down, like please talk to me, calm down. She's like, I don't know what's going on, they're not telling me nothing. And so I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, I'll be down there, right? Because I had to wait for them to give me a wheelchair. I had to wait to see what was going on. We don't know nothing. I don't know who's sick. I don't know if anybody's hurt. I don't know nothing. Only thing I know is I'm told there was a fire. There was actually a fire. People were being brought into the hospital. My family was being brought into the hospital. Who in my family it was, I didn't know anything. That's all I knew. I didn't know if it was my son. I didn't know if there was a dad. I didn't know if it was my mother. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know if it was who. I didn't know nothing. So I didn't know if it was my brother, because my brother lived with my mother at the time, so my baby brother. So I didn't know nothing, my youngest brother. So I'm like, what is happening? So finally, um, they get me a wheelchair and they wheel me downstairs. And I see their dad. Their dad's there. My husband's there. And so he's like pacing back and forth. He's like, they're not telling me nothing. They're not telling me nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, who is it? He was like, it's DeAnthony. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, where's everybody at? Like, where's my mom? Like, where is my youngest son? Where is my third son? Like, what is happening? So I get rolled. So he like, man, they're not telling us nothing. They're not telling us nothing. So I get around the corner, because when we got down to the emergency room, there was like this wall. And I see my mother. She's sitting in one chair. And she's like covered in kind of the smoke. She's got my youngest son on her lap. And he's in a diaper and a t-shirt with smoke. And then I see my third son. And he's got a hole in his pants. You could tell where it's like burnt or something. And so I'm like, I'm looking at my mom. I'm like, Mom, where's DeAnthony? Like, what's going on? What happened? And so she's just looking at me. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm so confused. I don't know what's happening. I'm in shock right now because I see everybody. Then so family's starting to come in to the hospital. And I'm like, so one of my good friends, she used to be my best friend in middle school. She actually was an RN at the same hospital. And I just remember her coming out, and she just looked at me. And she just kind of gave me this look, and she just gave me a hug. And I was like, whoa, like, what's going on? Like, she like, and I just see kind of like this watery look in her eyes. And I'm like, that's not like her. Like, she's a very smiley, bubbly person. And you could just see this look in her face, and it was just like not good. So I looked up at her, and as I'm looking at her, she's like, the doctor about to come out and talk to you. And I'm like, well, I said, don't tell me my son gone. Like, do not tell me my son is gone. And she was like, the doctor about to come out and talk to you. So they call me and my husband and tell us to come into the room. So it's this room. And so they bring us around, and it was like, so we want to let you know that your son, he is, I said, don't tell me my son's dead. That's all I kept saying. Please do not tell me my son is dead. Please do not tell me my son is dead. They was like, no, he's not. They said, but he is very sick. And we have to ship him out to Chicago. And it was like, he absorbed a ton of carbon monoxide poisoning. We don't have an accurate number, but right now his levels are showing like 50, close to 57%. This is what they're telling me. 50, this is what's in his report, everything. And the average adult human can only hold 25%. And he's very sick. And it was like, if he comes out of this, he's never going to be the same. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, what? I'm still trying to process what happened. I don't know what happened other than there was a fire. I said, so they was like, we've got to get him out of here. And on top of that, now by this time, they have my other kids back there too, because I have to check them out. So they come back to tell me and their dad, we also got to send your youngest son to Chicago on a different ambulance. We also got to send your other son, your third son, to the hospital on a different ambulance. DeAnthony had to go on his own ambulance. He couldn't fly because it was the first day of the snowstorm. So they just, like I said, they said that nobody could ride in the ambulance with DeAnthony because if he was too cold, you know. So they said they had to take him to Chicago because they had an oxygen chamber room that he needed to be in. And the hospital we was at it wasn't equipped for that. So that's why they were sending him out there. So they put him on an ambulance. He left. They did say, they was like, well, my other kids, somebody could ride with them. Somebody and my siblings had got there. So one of my siblings rode with them. One of my siblings rode with my youngest son. The other sibling rode with my other son. Then my doctor, they said to me, you can't leave here though. I can't leave here. What do you mean I can't leave here? They're like, we can't discharge you. You could die for what you got going on with your daughter, and you're pregnant. We can't let you leave this hospital because you are a high risk pregnancy and you just can't. So I'm right here. I'm in a trauma. I'm dealing with my own situation. I got my 3 sons, my 3 children that have to get shipped out. I could possibly die for what I got going on. My mother's here. So my husband ended up going out there and he left our car there. And he was like, I'll go out there and then we'll just keep a communication on what's going on. Could you imagine having to make the decision and take a risk on whether you can't be there at that moment for your 3 children, or risk the life of you and the baby you're pregnant with right then and there? Can you imagine how that felt for me? That was the hardest. Like, I was going through it. So I remember that I was laying in the hospital, and I was just like crying because I don't know the full story still. I don't know the condition of my child. I don't know. I don't know nothing. I am at a blank right now. And this is December 4th, late night. The fire happened at about 2 o'clock or so. And this is December 4th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then now we're probably at like 11 o'clock at night now. So they got him to the hospital. They put him in the oxygen chamber. I remember they called me. So when they got him to the hospital in Chicago, I remember I got the phone call, but it was the chaplain on the phone. And she said, "Hi, I'm just calling to check in. I'm introducing myself. My name is such, chaplain such and such." And I remember at that moment, I was like, this is not good. I was like, well, why are you calling me? Where's the nurses? Well, the nurses asked for me to give you a call. I knew at that moment, I was like, again, it was that mother intuition that was like, this is not good. This is not good. And so she was just saying, he's, on machines right now, they're working and, trying to get him stabilized and back healthy and, doing what they can. They are really taking their time with him. We at the hospital, I made the decision to check myself out. I had talked to his grandmother, but she was going to meet me at the hospital the next day. She was getting somebody to drop her off, and she was going to drive my car, and we was going to go out there. Like, there was no negotiating no more. I just had to take it easy for myself and make the decision to be careful. I had to get to my son. I had to get to my other kids. That was my focus. So she got there early that morning, and we were driving, but I swear to you, every minute, every second, everything just felt like eternity. You didn't know if you was about to get that call saying he was gone. I didn't know if I was going to get that call saying he was going to wake up. I didn't know what was going to happen, honestly. So I'm just there. I'm worried about myself, but, what about me? Like, my only daughter, my youngest child I'm carrying right now, like, what's going to happen? So we get to the hospital. And before we even got to the hospital, the great thing I love about my doctor, as I told y'all in the last video, is that we have a great relationship. She's delivered all my children. She's an amazing doctor. Love her to death. And she delivered all my kids. But before I had checked myself out or discharged myself, she told me on the phone, she was like, listen, when you get to Chicago, I have a friend that's a residency doctor there. If you need a bed, I'm going to have a bed ready for you. But just stay in contact with me. And then, when you get everything settled with your son, call me so we can, work on getting ready to deliver your baby and things of that sort next month. Because again, this is December. Now this is December 5th. We're on December 5th now. And you could deliver, I'm due to deliver my daughter January 10th. So she's like, just let me know. Just keep in contact with me. Beautiful. So I get to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, when I say there was a team of doctors and nurses standing at the front door waiting on me, like there, waiting on me but these are the doctors and nurses that took care of my son. So they had a wheelchair already there for me, everything. So I'm being wheeled in. Like, I got out the car, somebody was already waiting to put me in a wheelchair to wheel me in there. And the head doctor, his primary physician that was there, beautiful lady, really nice lady, loved her. She started introducing everybody. She said, I'm Dr. Such and Such. I'm his primary physician here. This is Dr. Such and Such. He's his blood pressure doctor. This is Dr. Such and Such. This is his heart doctor. It's Dr. Such and Such. This is his brain doctor. Dr. Such and Such. He's dealing with the kidneys. And I was just like, Dr. Such and Such dealing with the breathing. I'm like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is bad. Like, it was bad. So she was like, you want to go see him? I was like, absolutely, take me to my child. Like, so we get there, and he had like the biggest room in the pediatric ward. It was huge. But he was on ventilators, and they was like, so they started explaining to me, they was like, yeah, even from last night when we last talked to you, his brain progress has dropped from 30% to down to like 15-17%. And I'm like, so they was like, again, it's up to him to wake up. Like, now it's up to him to wake up. So I was like, okay. So they was like, we're still running tests on him. We're still doing tests on him. But we're gonna keep doing it. We've been working on it for a couple. We worked on him all day yesterday. He didn't respond to any tests yesterday. We're gonna do some more tests today, and then we'll go from there. But go ahead and go check on your other children. So I went and I checked on my third son, and he was in there eating, watching cartoons, so he was doing really, really well. Went in there and checked on my baby boy. He was sitting up in the bed. He had just started learning how to walk. So, they got those cribs that kind of look like, I can't stand them because they look like cages, but he was up in there. And so it was, that gave me a bit of relief and a smile to see how great that they were doing. My baby boy had a cough at the time. So, and they was just saying that was just, part of the reflex of everything that was going on. And it's like, okay. So now I'm like, let me figure out what happened. I'm now able to sit down and say, what the hell happened? Apparently, my third oldest son, by mistake, their father had came to get the clothes, and when he came to get the clothes, he was going to go take them to get washed, like we talked about in the other video. And when he was going to go take them to get washed, my D'Anthony asked him, like, Daddy, can I go with you? And he was like, yeah, you go with me. Let me go make sure your grandma got all the clothes ready and stuff like that. And he turned on the movie Good Dinosaur while he was getting with my mom to get everything together and put up and everything. So he turned on the movie The Good Dinosaur. And D'Anthony fell asleep watching the movie The Good Dinosaur. And my baby boy fell asleep too on the playpen. And so my third son was the only one that was up. So his dad was like, when he went up there to get ready to go get him, to take him with him to go wash clothes. Because remember I told you, D'Anthony didn't go nowhere without us. We didn't go anywhere without D'Anthony. D'Anthony went everywhere with us. He was asleep, and he was like, I didn't want to wake him up. So he fell asleep watching The Good Dinosaur. And to this day, I've never watched that food movie. And I know what it's about, and I can't watch the movie because it's crazy that he fell asleep watching that movie, right? And so my third oldest son was up, and he just let my mother know, hey, he's up. I'm about to leave. The other two asleep. She's like, okay. He left. So my third son asked my mother to go use the restroom in her townhouse. Boom. Went to go use the restroom because it was upstairs. Went to go use the restroom, but instead of him coming back downstairs, he found the lighter in my brother's room, and he struck the lighter and caused the mattress, those mattresses that do this, like, when somebody comes over, those old school, like, roll out mattresses. My mother kept one, like, in a room, like, if somebody came over to stay. He struck the lighter and set the mattress on fire. And then he yelled downstairs for my mother, and she flew up the stairs and tried to get him out the room. She saw the fire, grabbed him out the room, but she closed the door because he was in a separate room from where my youngest son and D'Anthony were. So she ran him down the stairs to the front door, tried to go back upstairs. She went back upstairs. When she got upstairs, the playpen was the first thing at the bedroom door with my youngest son in there. She grabbed him out the playpen and ran him down the stairs. When she went back upstairs, the power cut off, and she tried to go in the room to get D'Anthony, but the smoke was too bad, and she was feeling around, but she couldn't find him because D'Anthony had rolled over to the end of the bunk bed because, again, remember, he was asleep. So she ran back down the stairs, yelled for help, was screaming for help. Somebody called an ambulance, fire department. It's a fire. It's a baby stuck in the house. And just so happened, remember I told you earlier, my cousin that I had not talked to in a while, her cousin on her dad's side was driving past the complex, and she pulled in the parking lot, and my mother threw the kids in that car. And then she tried to go back in there and get them again and couldn't. And it was a guy that was in the community. He ran in the house with my mother, but he couldn't find out what room my son was in. At this point, the man came in and helped my mother with trying to find D'Anthony, trying to get him out the house. He went up the stairs to try to go find him. And my mother was outside, like standing outside the door, trying to make sure she caught her breath, was, not breathing in the smoke and things of that sort. Well, meanwhile, he's upstairs trying to find, he doesn't know what room he's in either. So he comes running back outside and comes running out the door. So my mom's like, where's the baby? Where's the baby? And he was like, it's too hot. It's too hot. And she was like, what? So she tried to run past him, and he picked her up and grabbed her back out the door. And so she's screaming and kicking to get back in.
I can't even imagine the panic in that moment. Trying to save multiple children at once while smoke is filling the house. I'm sure that's something that bothered her for years to come.
At that point, the ambulance pulls up, the fire department pulls up. So when they pull up, my mother tells them, there's a baby in the house. The baby's in the house. So they're rushing, and they go to the window where the fire started at, not the window he was, where the room that he was in. So at that point, she's like screaming, like, not that window, this window. So, boom, they go through that window. They get in. They got him out really fast. When they got in, from my understanding, he was on the bunk bed, asleep still, and he was laying under the cover, but he had, I guess, rolled towards the end of the bed, which is why when my mother went in there the first time, she couldn't find him, because I guess some period of time, maybe before the fire happened, he probably rolled, which Anthony did a lot of rolling in his sleep, and rolled towards the end of the bed, and he had the cover over him, sleeping. So he, never woke up during the fire. So they said when they got him out the door that he had little to no pulse. So basically he had no pulse. It was very faint. Got him in an ambulance and was able to get a pulse back. So now again, we're back in, fast forwarded to where we are now. I'm getting this information from like the nurses, because they've collectively gathered it from, the nurses from the other hospital, fire departments, the information that was given to them by my mother, people that were there and things of that sort. So at this point, we're like, what? It's late in the evening. It's December 5th now, right? It's probably about 10:30ish. We're gonna go check on D'Anthony again. So we're, as I'm going through the hallway to go check on D'Anthony, I'm being, rolled in a wheelchair, and this whole time everything's just flashing before me. It's my son that accidentally started this fire. It's my baby boy who's so little. He's only one, right? Just turned one in November, experiencing something like this. It's my baby that's in here fighting for his life right now. It's, what their father must be feeling, because he's got to kind of hold fork down. It's me, scared for my kids, scared on losing my kids, scared on, everything, scared of losing my own life right now. So it's a ball of emotions that I can't express. Like, I can't cry. I can't, at this moment, only thing I can do is just ask God to please help me. I just remember saying, Jesus, 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 Lord, Lord, Lord. That's all I kept remember, just shaking my head in my wheelchair, like while being rolled down to his room. So we get in the room, and while we're in the room, his doctors come back in, and they're doing some more, tests on him, just to see what's going on, and just to check to see his, stats and things of that sort. And I remember the doctor had the stethoscope in, and then he took it out, and he was like, and when I seen him shake his head, but he wasn't shaking it at me, he was talking to another doctor that was in there. And the other doctor just kind of still had his in, but he looked at him and was like, kind of gave him a look like. So, then they said to me, they both took the stethoscopes out their ears, and, they said to me and my husband, it was like, yeah, they was like, so his brain function has decreased some more, and it's went from being at higher teens to now below 10%. At this point too, he's not responding to any type of test that's being done. They're like squirting this liquid in his ear, no reflexes, no nothing. So there's like, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do some more tests in the morning. We're gonna check, do some more things in the morning, and if we still getting the same, reactions or responses, then we're gonna have to discuss next steps. Nothing. Something a mother don't want to hear. Something no parent wants to hear. Like, next steps. Like, what do you mean next steps? Again, I'm just foggy right now. So everything somebody's saying to me sounds foreign because I'm just in this maze. I'm in just like this disbelief of everything happening right now. You know, I went from great year at the beginning to it's like bricks was just being thrown at me and I'm not feeling it, but I know that they're hitting me and it's just numbing. So you're not feeling nothing, right? So they were like, listen, we cannot imagine what you're going through right now, but what we need you to do is we need you to go get some rest. We need you to go in there and lay down and be able to, you know, help. You got to get some rest for yourself. So at that point, I agreed. You know, they had a room for us down the hallway with a bed and everything. So I went in there and lay down. So now it's probably about, I'll say about 1:30. Lay down. Finally was able to close my eyes and I could feel myself getting a little shut eye. About 3 o'clock, got up. I was like, I gotta use the restroom. Oh, okay. Get up, I go to the restroom. When I tell you I went into the restroom and all of a sudden I just had this massive hemorrhage. Just start and I just it's blood everywhere. I just started screaming. And so their dad came running in. He was like, "Oh my God!" Like he just held his head and was like, this is too much." So he calls for the nurses. So nurses come flying in. I'm talking about the whole bathroom floor just puddled. Like it was like a small swimming pool. Like it was just everywhere. So they're like, "We gotta rush her upstairs right now. Let's get her upstairs right now. She's hemorrhaging." Meanwhile, I'm not knowing my son is down the hall and some things is going on with him as well. So they rushing me upstairs. My son, D'Anthony. So they rushing me upstairs. We get upstairs. They put me, in the bed. They start to slow the bleeding down. They were able to kind of get me a little stabilized. And they were like, "We have to deliver this baby today." And this is like December 6th now. This is probably now about 4:15 in the morning. We have to deliver this baby today. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or nothing. You're going to die if we don't deliver this baby today. You've lost too much blood. This baby's not going to make it. You're not going to make it. What? But I got 7 more weeks to cook this baby. No, you don't. Today you're having this baby is what they told me. Do you know, like, I just sat there and I'm like, meanwhile, my son's doctor needs to talk to me. They're like, your son's doctor needs to talk to you too. We hate to do this to you, but she has to come talk to you. Okay, what's going on? Comes upstairs. Her face was just so red and puffy and like you can tell she was crying or she was very teary-eyed before she came up those stairs. And I know, in that field with those doctors and nurses that they're not supposed to render that type of emotion because it's a trigger for the patients or the patient's next of kin and family, but not her. When I tell you the emotion was all over her, it was all over her. I just remember her standing there and she was speechless for the first probably 40 to 45 seconds. And she looked at me and she said, "I really, really hate to do this, but I have to talk to you about D'Anthony. I really, really, really hate to do this." So at this point now, the doctor's like, "We really need to talk to you. I have to talk to you, and I really hate to do this." And she says, during everything that you were going through and what was happening to you, some things was happening downstairs with D'Anthony, and his brain has um, fully, brain function has fully decreased. So at this point, we checked him and did some more tests on him, and he's not responding to anything. So at this point, we do have to declare him brain dead. And we also have to declare him legally dead. So we are declaring him deceased at this point. I sat there for a minute and I said, "What?" And I just remember his father just bawling and crying. And what do you mean? Like, and she was like, I am so, so sorry. There was nothing else we could do for him. Those words haunt me, like, to this day. I am sorry. There was nothing else that we can do for him. So, what do we go from here? Like, what do you mean? Like, my son's not coming home with me? I can't wake my son up in the morning to go to school no more. I can't feed him. Like, my kids have one less sibling. Like, what are you telling me? Like, how do I go on? Like, my son didn't get to meet his sister. Like, what do you mean? Like, is he? No, he's still on the machines. Like, she's like, I am so sorry. She was like, and at this point, I know you're going into surgery. If he is to code again, or if he, codes again, do we resuscitate? And my heart just sunk because it's like, what do I say? What do I do? Like, what? I gotta make this decision whether I we cut ties with my child at this point. I'm like, I looked at his father looked at me, and he was like, he couldn't make the decision. I'm like, if he don't resuscitate, do you know how hard that was for me as a mother to tell them not to continue to work on my child, even though I know that he's gone technically, but that I've got to let him go if something was to happen, because they were like, we're gonna, you know, keep him going on the machine to see you come out of surgery and things of that sort. Because I'm like, he didn't get a chance to meet his sister. It's not fair. Like, I need him to meet his sister. So that's why they was like, no, 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 we're definitely gonna keep him going, keep him, on life support and things.
The emotional whiplash of bringing one child into this world while preparing to lose another. I genuinely cannot imagine how a person even survives something like that mentally.
Of that sort. But if something was to happen, right, during that time you're in surgery, do we resuscitate? And that's when I had to make the decision not to. So I asked him this. I said, well, because I'm so worried because of how bad his health was declining. Can we bring him up here before I go into surgery, just in case I come out and he's not there? He was like, absolutely. So they went downstairs and they brought him upstairs to me in his bed. They wheeled his bed up there, put our beds side by side. Um, I have pictures of that, which I'm gonna do a video with those pictures included in it later on. Um, and I just remember singing to him and talking to him and just telling him like, okay, this is the last time, you're gonna see your baby sister in my stomach. And I just kept apologizing to him that we never got the opportunity to, go see Moana like we had talked about. And that I fussed at him. The last real conversation I had, was me yelling at him about some stupid snowflakes and him not being able to play in the snow when he just wanted to play in the snow one more time. And I apologized for all that, because my last conversation with my son was me fussing at him. Like, the last conversation that I had with my child was me fussing about him wanting to go play in the snow. But I was able to tell him I loved him. So that point, they're like, we got to get you to surgery. We don't mean to interrupt this, but we'll have him downstairs. So before went to surgery, um, I just kind of, was getting rolled off and everything. And I just remember just my heart just hurting so bad. I couldn't cry. I couldn't do none of that. My heart just was hurting. It was like this ache. Like, it felt like I was having an ongoing heart attack or something that wouldn't happen. So I went into surgery, but they were like, we're gonna, put you to sleep because you're going through a lot right now. We're gonna give you something to sleep through the C-section. So they got my daughter out, and I remember them putting her right next to my face, and I remember looking at her saying, "Hey, mama," and then whatever they gave me, I went right back out. Um, and she came out very healthy. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was wrong with her. She came back very healthy. Came out very healthy, beautiful. And even for her to be almost 2 months early, she was 5 pounds 4 ounces. And that was like a blessing. And I was just like, that couldn't be nothing but my son saying, I got you, mommy. So they put me in recovery. Came out of recovery. First thing when I got out of the recovery, where's my baby? Where's my son? Is he still on? It was like he's still hanging on those machines. So they got my daughter, and then they wheeled her down in her bassinet crib, or the little baby um, baby bed, and wheeled her down there. And uh, they did so many pictures with them. Like they took multiple pictures with them together, and it was just a very bittersweet moment. Losing my child and gaining one the same day. I mean, now how do I tell my kids that they brother not coming home? How do I tell my family that my son's not gonna come home no more? Like, how do I do this? Like, how? What do we do? What do we do? You know? And all I could think about was my kids. That's it. That's it. That's all. And then I remember I was like, D'Anthony, and I know this could be a sensitive conversation for some people, but this is something that I'm really big with, and I like to make awareness about. D'Anthony was super big at sharing, and D'Anthony just believed that in doing things. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, I said, what's is he eligible to be an organ donor?" Just gonna be honest with you guys. Something I personally believe in. That anybody else's beliefs, that's totally up to you. And it was like, they did do some tests on some of his, there were some organs that that's functional. Was that something you wanted to look into? They didn't come to me with that. I brought that to them. Like they asked, is that something we want to do? And I said yes. We talked. Yes. His father was a little eerie of it at first, but I just knew my son and I knew what he stood for. So it was his kidneys, his liver, pancreas was good. So they were like, okay, so, we talked about it, went through, the whole process of what that would look like. Um, and they were like, okay. So they were asking me what date do we want to take him off of life support. And at this point, this is December 6th, this is his death date. I was like, you know what, we're going to take him off on the 9th. That was the decision, the 8th or the 9th. But I felt more comfortable with doing it on the 9th so he could do his, hall honor walk and, just that those last couple days to give people time to kind of come in if they wanted to see him before we may pull them off the machines and things of that sort. I thought sooner than later just because he had started doing some swelling and things of that sort. So we wanted to kind of make the best decision for him and making sure we did everything that needed to be done for him. So so in that process, the doctor, goes through and you sign all the paperwork and they pull you to the side and they kind of talk about like the recipients without giving any type of personal information. And during this talk, there was one recipient that they brought up to us and they pulled us to the side. It was a 1 year old little girl. This 1 year old little girl lived in California, and her family owned a farm, and her grandmother had made mushroom soup. Well, they didn't know the mushrooms were bad. So everybody in the house got sick. The grandmother, the mom, the dad, the uncles, everyone. I guess they it spread it real bad, and even a little girl. So the little girl got really, really sick. She was sick, more sick than anybody, um, where it caused her to be in ICU and she was on life support. Um, she needed a liver. Well, D'Anthony was the perfect match. The little girl had 48 hours to live, if that, max 48 hours to live. The doctor talked to us and just let us know she was one of the people on the list. He by far did not rush us. He was like, I'm not rushing you guys. I'm just giving you who's on this list, who's the most critical, what's happening, where these, where is everybody located, right? Um, he said, I'm not telling you anything to do with this. You do what you want to do with this. He was just explaining to us again the different people and what was going on with them. Automatically, like my heart just kind of froze because I was like, that's crazy. Like, and again, I know a lot of people talk about organ donation and, the negative parts of it. I didn't experience that. I was not rushed. If anything, it was told, do what makes you happy, what's going to be best for you and your family. Um, but just listening to just the feeling inside of me when I talked about what my son does and how of a good of a person my child was, I wouldn't have felt right. So at that point, made the decision to take my son off of life support a day earlier. so that way that little girl can have his liver. Well, the doctor had, because we made the decision so late, the doctor had to notify the staff out in California. And when I mean late, it was later in the evening on the 7th. Because the decision was to take him off on the 8th. So we didn't get the chance to do his honor walk, but they did the half stands at the for the flag for DeAnthony. And by the time that the doctor got there from California to do the operation for the organs and things of that sort, it was about, I want to say, like 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night, midnight almost. And they called up there because we went upstairs to the room, and they called up there and was like, we just wanted to let you know that the doctor from California is here to get ready to do the operations. So if you want to come down and say your last goodbyes to your son, you can right now, or if you want to give it a little time, but just let us know. It's like, you know what? Again, this is urgent. Time is of the essence. How how selfish of me would I be knowing that we can change the narrative for this little girl? As far as when I say change the narrative, we have the option and opportunity to be able to be a part of helping this little girl probably live a long, successful life. My son has the opportunity to save somebody's life. We didn't want another. I didn't want another mother or father to go through that pain that I was feeling. That's not fair. So we're gonna sit there and let two sets of parents go through the same thing when one doesn't have to. It wasn't right. So while I was upstairs, though, I decided to write Anthony a letter to be read to him down in the operating room before they started everything, because I couldn't go in the operating room with them, but I asked them as one last request, could, when they get down there before they started the surgery, could somebody read this out loud and record it, which they did, and then they gave me the recording of it, and there was not one dry eye in there. So this was the letter that I wrote DeAnthony prior to him being completely gone. I said, Dear DeAnthony, I just want you to know that though you're not physically here, spiritually you'll always be here with us. DeAnthony, I swear to you, not a day will go by that you won't be a legend in not just our family, but through the lives of the ones you're saving. Being loving, caring, outspoken, and in charge has always been your personality. But do mommy a favor, though. Try not to be too much in charge so you don't get in trouble in heaven. Just know, every time your birthday comes, that's going to be a holiday. Know when Christmas comes, there will always be a gift under that tree for you. This has far, this has by far been the hardest thing me and your father have ever had to do. Can you do mommy another favor? You make sure you keep an eye out for baby doll and trip any little boy you see walking with her on the sidewalk. LOL. No, seriously though, baby. I love you beyond belief, and I'm so proud of the fight you put up. In my eyes, you won a battle because you lived through more people with never ending memories. Well, I know you've got people waiting on you and people to meet. So until that sweet day that you welcome me to heaven's gates, I love you and get some rest. And yes, you still have a bedtime. Love, mommy and daddy. That was my letter to him to say, it's okay, baby. It's okay to go. Job well done. I'm proud of you. But go ahead and get you some rest. It was the confirmation for him to be able to know that I'm going to be okay. It hurt, but I'm going to be okay. Doing this video and doing his story, I've always been an advocate of, the whole awareness of importance of loving your family and children. But, this year was more, it's special to me because this is 10 years. And so I thought that this is the perfect time to tell his story. This is the perfect time so people can understand. But I like to bring awareness so everybody will know, like, love on your kids. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with our kids. Sometimes we get stressed out with life, not just our kids, our life. But I promise you, I wish that I can have the opportunity that a lot of you guys do with having all my kids together. I wish my Mother's Day didn't feel like a piece of me was gone every single year. I wish that I could get that opportunity to clean up his mess again. I wish that I'd be able to watch him walk across his high school graduation stage and see a grandchild come from him. I wish I had that opportunity. So I tell people all the time, love on your babies, because in a blink of an eye, anything could happen. And I am the first person to contest that is the case. So I just want to tell everybody again, thank you guys for the support. Remember, love, cherish your kids, and just continue to just stay guided.
Honestly, this story is just heartbreaking from beginning to end. And I think one of the hardest parts is knowing that everybody involved was trying their best, but tragedy still happened anyway. I truly hope this family has been able to find some level of peace after experiencing something this devastating. Okay, guys, go over to TikTok to at Ms. Carey 2009. It's on the screen. And you'll see pictures of her beautiful family, including D'Anthony. All right. Talk to y'all later in the comments.